another FA Cup tie, another replay for Kingstonian, 1-1 draw here against Horsham. How you considering the kind of territorial dominance that we had, considering we were winning with not long left in the game? That's a pretty frustrating result.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and probably you've summed up the entire interview with that first statement. Yeah, territorially, we dominated the game from start to finish. Horsham, I think, obviously arrived intent to try to force a replay. I think that they set up to stop us and hit us on counters. Did we move the ball quick enough? I would say that we didn't. I'm not making excuses for the players, but it's a combination of they're having a very low block. The pitch is really sticky at the moment, so it's difficult to really move the ball sharply. If you remember our better performances here, there's been a little bit of rain during the game before. It really helps, the pitches are a bit sticky. So we struggled to really move it with the pace that we wanted. For all of our territory, we didn't create as many opportunities as what we should have done, but nonetheless, I don't think it was a great surprise when we scored. And we all feel for Brian. Brian has made two mistakes. The first mistake was, as we now know, he's notoriously bad at throw-ons for a left back, and he's obviously, the ball slipped from his hands with the throw-on. In the next phase, it's come to us, and it's a naive decision. The truth is, the best left backs, whether they play in this league or whether they play Premier League, they just defend the ball, then they clear the danger and they set up. He's tried to do something that is very difficult. Tom Kavanagh's got on the end of it, and he's taking his goal well. So, you know.
And typical that, obviously, you know, there's enough of our ex-players there that it's not a huge surprise, but typical that Cam gets a goal.
Yeah, wasn't surprised by that. I thought he took it very well.
Yeah.
He's obviously pleased. I get it. I've got to say, whether Tom Kavanagh scores, whether Tom Richards scores, whether Gary Charman scores, whether anybody plays, things like that don't bother me at all. I understand their emotion. I don't think badly of it. I just don't care. The fact is Horsham have scored, so we have to go to a replay. So that's okay.
It's a funny one in that we've had enough territory to win the game, but we've not really created many clear-cut chances, have we?
No, I call that playing football with the handbrake on, because we had there is a difference between being patient and being a little bit pedestrian, is the truth. I don't think we got that balance right today. They obviously set up to make it very difficult for us, so you have to play with patience. You can't overcommit bodies forward, because you know they are a good team. Horsham are a good side, and they can hit you on counters. So there's the balance between working the ball patiently, making sure we're in the right areas for transition to win it back high, but constantly asking questions. But you know, there's opinion and there's fact, and I don't think anybody can hide the fact that for all of our possession, Sam Howes had very little to do in goal for Horsham.
Yeah. On Tuesday night, you talked about wanting the team to bounce back with a performance after what was a poor showing on Tuesday. Did you get that today?
In terms of their attitude, they did that. I think in terms of, you know, sometimes players can confuse passion with performance. They worked very hard on Thursday. They did very well. We discussed things in team meetings. They've taken it on board. We've all seen these games. You've all seen these games, in particularly the way that my teams play. I've seen these games 100 times before, whereby if the opposing team is not coming out to try to win, and they're more intent in trying not to lose, it can be frustrating. And that was today. I don't feel as though they were ever going to hurt us. I don't think that they ever really overcommitted people to try to score. They really sat in for 90 minutes to try to ensure that we didn't. And, you know, normally in those games it's a case of being patient. One chance, one goal, 1-0, we're done. It was looking like that at 1-0 in the latter stages of the game. Still, they wasn't really over-committing. Still, we had a good possession of the ball. But there's been a mistake. And you know, this is football. The truth is, this is a young player who I'm very proud of. If I'd said when I first met him over the summer that his first mistake would have been 7-8 games in to our campaign, I'd have taken that, because normally those sort of decisions are quite frequent with young players. The boy's been very consistent. He's shown a lovely attitude, and in Fabio's absence, he's really added to the team. So I've reminded Brian, and forgive me, what's a very long-winded answer to the question. I've reminded Brian that at the same stage in this competition a couple of years ago, when we went to Macclesfield Fylde, we had an almost exactly the same situation with Gus at Weston-super-Mare. I think he went into fullback for 1 minute, conceded a penalty, I think, and this is where Brian needs to learn from Gus. Everybody said to me, "Oh, you won't put Gus right back in the next game." I walked off the pitch and I knew I would put Gus right back the next game, because I know Gus's personality locked out the same player who won a penalty against him, who was their biggest threat, was the best player on the pitch, and we had a great performance. And that's what I would ask of Brian. If he wants to be a footballer, and I think there's every chance he can do that, he has the ability. He's got to show he's got the mental strength and the character now, and I would certainly back him to do that. And I would say to Brian today, don't even worry about it. The mistake is not an individual mistake. The mistake is a collective mistake. And we'll all take it. We'll all share his mistake today, because if you do sit on 1-0s, you are running the risk of things like that happening. If that happens at 3-0, it doesn't matter, does it? So, no drama, and nothing for that young man to worry about, who's a fantastic lad.
We talked a fair bit about their goal. Our goal was a bit of a weird one. Their captain seemed to handball the ball for no apparent reason. Their team were furious about that, and yet we seemed angry as well. What do you make of that incident, and what in particular was it you felt we were wronged by?
The players were adamant that the ball went in.
Okay.
Yeah, the players were adamant that it shouldn't be a penalty because the ball's got in the net.
Okay.
And then you have a situation which always really worries me, because the penalty taker's waiting to take the penalty. How often have we all seen it? I'm saying to our players, get away from the ref, because the one thing's for certain, the referee, if he immediately doesn't address the linesman and say, okay, that's a goal, one of the things he's not going to do is change his mind after 2 or 3 minutes. And when you're taking a penalty and you've got the ball in your hands and you're waiting and waiting, I've seen so many of those missed. I'm sure you're the same. But to be fair, Jason is probably the coolest guy in the club, and he'll just like shrug his shoulders and say, "Oh, wait when you're ready." And
you said after the Oxley first game that you were happy for the extra football at this stage of the season. Do you feel like that again going into Tuesday?
Absolutely. Sounds funny to say, you know, you're pleased to play the replay. Obviously, we would have preferred to have won 1-0, but we're pleased to play because we need to play and we need to improve. And you know, they're doing fantastic work on the training ground, these lads. But there's nothing like playing. And every year, normally, you would play Saturday and Tuesday in the first few weeks of the season, and for reasons that I really don't understand, the Isthmian League have decided not to do that. So, yeah, we just have to give away 1 or 2 late goals to make sure we're playing anyway.
Yeah, doing a good job of getting those extra games in.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask this before today. Maybe it feels a bit unfair maybe it feels a bit unfair after what happened towards the end of the game. You mentioned in your interview earlier in the week that both Harry and Fabio are looking at quite long-term injuries.
Yeah.
I don't think it's saying too much to say they'd have been plan A across both full-back positions before the season. I know that you've resisted the kind of revolving door policy, but when you get long-term injury news like that, do you look to bring new people in? I know Brian and Javan have both been doing really well, but how do you approach those positions looking forward?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because you're right. You know, Harry and Fabio are both established in those positions. They're both very important players to our squad. I commend Javan and Brian enormously for taking their chances, and I think they've done really well, really well. So well, in fact, I don't think Harry or Fabio will be offended if I was to say that we haven't missed them. But it's a concern. It's a concern that Harry has quite a serious problem around the groin area, which he was sent to a specialist this week and could take thousands of pounds, is the truth. probably in the region of £10,000 to get him back fit. So not quite sure how we're going to achieve that one, but I certainly will come up with something for the lad because he's one of us, and I feel for him. But clearly that is a long-term injury. Fabio seems to have hit a brick wall with his injury to an extent. He's seen another specialist this week, and that specialist has indicated there may be a rupture to his ACL. So that's a worry. We're going to wait to see the results of the MRI scan. I'm going to speak to Steve Allen on plans for Harry and how we can move forward on that, and then we'll have to make one or two decisions. I'm not in any rush to make decisions, but certainly what you can't deny is that if something happens to Javan, okay, look, we can put Simon there.
Yeah.
So that one is quite well covered because we know Simon is also an excellent right back. The left back position is something that we'd have to be a little bit more concerned with, albeit Simon, Javan, Jerry can go into the left back position. They're not naturally left-footed, and the way that we play, that might hinder us a little bit. So yeah, it's a good question. So what I would say is I have one or two players in mind that we can bring into the football club if we need to, but just at the moment I'm going to keep my powder dry on it.
That's fair enough, yeah. As you say, the two lads who have been there, both done really well, and big chance for Brian to bounce back on Tuesday. We'll see you then.
And he will.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you.